Hello guys, this is Nakul back with a comparison video of the new Moto G second generation versus the Asus ZenFone 5, as many of you guys were requesting for it. So here's the video guys. This comparison video would be based on the specifications of the phone and user experience, and in the end of the video I will tell you the conclusion that which phone you should buy according to me. So let's not waste any more time and get started. Okay, the first things first, the price. Asus ZenFone 5 16GB variant costs 13,000 rupees and Moto G second generation 16GB variant also costs 13,000 rupees. So both the phones have same price. Moving on, the design. As both the phones have 5 inches of display, but as you can see Asus ZenFone 5 is a bit bigger than the Moto G second generation, as you can see. Though the Asus ZenFone 5 is a bit thinner than Moto G, but again it's a bit bigger. Both the phones have 5 inches of display, but Moto G is a bit smaller than Asus ZenFone 5, so the winning point goes to Moto G in this segment. And both the phones have Corning Gorilla Glass 3 on them, and both the phones' screen resolution is the same 1280 by 720p. As talking about the screen, I want to show you one more thing, that if we increase the brightness to the maximum, here it is. This is the full brightness of Asus ZenFone 5, which if compared to other phones is very less. Let me show you the full brightness of Moto G. I don't know if you guys can see the difference here or not. Let me open the Android market so that you guys can compare it better. I don't know if you guys can see the difference in the camera or not, but if you see the phone in front of you, then you can surely make out that the brightness of Moto G is pretty much very higher than Asus ZenFone 5. If this is 100, then this is surely on 70 or 65, I would say. So this was the one thing which I also wanted to show you guys. In this case, again the winner is Moto G in screen brightness, because it has much higher brightness than Asus ZenFone 5. And weight of both of these phones is almost similar. Asus ZenFone 5 weighs 145 grams while Moto G weighs 149 grams, so it's almost similar, only 4 grams difference. But if you hold both of the phones in the hand, then you will feel that Asus ZenFone is a bit lighter because it is bigger and it has more weight distribution area. But again, it's only the difference of 4 grams, so it doesn't matter. Moving on to the internal memory, both the phones have 16GB of internal memory, out of which you get around 12.8 or 13GB for user available, so that's pretty good. Plus both the phones support microSD card slot, so you can expand your memory. But here comes the difference. In Asus you can expand your memory up to 64GB, while in Moto G you can expand your memory up to 32GB. But I think even 32GB is sufficient enough. But if we talk about the winning point, then obviously Asus takes the winning point in this. The next thing is the RAM. Asus ZenFone 5 has 2GB of RAM while Moto G has only 1GB of RAM. So obviously Asus is the winner in this, though it doesn't really make any difference in day-to-day use. But one thing I'll tell you as an example where RAM really plays its part, like in Moto G, while you're surfing Facebook on the Facebook app in this phone, and you open a link, and that link opens in your browser, and you're surfing that page or link on your browser for like 5-10 minutes, and when you hit the back button, so the phone has to restart the Facebook app, and it doesn't really go where you left the app, and it will open the app again from the starting. Where in Asus ZenFone 5, which has 2GB of RAM, when you hit the back button, it will directly go where you left the app at the same post. So this is where the RAM plays its part, which is called multitasking. So in this case, winner is Asus ZenFone 5. So moving on, the next thing is the processor. Asus ZenFone 5 has Intel 1.2 dual core processor with a technology called hyper-threading. Means it has 2 virtual cores and it can actually work as a quad core device when required. And in Moto G, it has Snapdragon 400 1.2 quad core processor. So let's do the Antutu Benchmark test and see which one is the fastest. So let's start the test, guys. So let's see the results, guys. Okay, Asus ZenFone 5 scored, it's 22,915, which is fairly good, I guess, and it says good. And Moto G second generation scored 18,364. So that's the difference of almost 4,500. So you can see in RAM and processor, Asus ZenFone 5 is definitely better than Moto G second generation. This is 18,364 and Asus ZenFone 5 is 22,915. So ZenFone 5 is definitely better in processor and performance. Okay, the next thing is GPU, graphic processing unit. In Asus, GPU is called PowerVR SGX 544 MP2, which is a very long name, I must say. And in Moto G second generation, it's Adreno 305. So let's test the GPU performance in NenaMark 2 test and see what do we get as result. Let's run the test. And here are the results, guys. Asus ZenFone 5 scored 60.5 FPS, as you can see here, 60.5 FPS, while Moto G second generation scored 57.5 FPS. So it's the difference of 3 FPS, but again Asus ZenFone 5 is better in graphics also. So if we talk about processor, graphics and RAM, then obviously Asus ZenFone 5 is better than Moto G second generation. Moving on, the camera. Both the phones have 8 megapixel rear camera with LED flash. But personally I think the camera of Asus ZenFone 5 is a bit better than Moto G. The clarity and the quality of the pics is a bit better than Moto G. I will show you the interface of the camera, though I think you already have seen it. In Asus you have tons of settings. You have your flash, your front facing camera, then you have your color effects, and in settings panel you also have many settings to do: white balance, ISO, exposure value optimization, camera resolution, anti-shake, image quality, touch shutter, self timer, burst mode, autofocus. Like, there are plenty of settings you can do. Plus you also have your scene modes over here. As you can see, auto, time rewind, HDR, panorama, night, low light, selfie, miniature, depth of field, smart remove, all smiles, beautification, GIF animation, and then you have your turbo burst mode. So there are plenty of things you can do in the camera application of Asus ZenFone 5, while in Moto G it's really simple. As you all know, you barely get anything. You have your HDR, flash, touch, exposure and autofocus, slow motion video. Then you have your panorama, geolocation, your memory card option to save the pics on memory card. Then you have your widescreen and standard, and then shutter sound. You don't even have self timer or anything, so pretty basic and simple camera interface. But I will include the sample pics, which you can see after this. So as you just saw the pics, you can see the clarity and the pics are more brighter of Asus ZenFone 5 than Moto G. Plus there is one more thing I want to tell you about, that the video recording quality is also better in Asus ZenFone 5 than Moto G. Asus ZenFone 5 records video at full HD 1080p, while Moto G records at 720p. Despite that both the phones have 8 megapixel camera, but still Moto G records at 720p and Asus ZenFone 5 records at full HD 1080p. And even the sound quality in the video is really better in Asus ZenFone 5. And the front facing camera of both the phones are also the same, 2 megapixel in both the phones. Though the front facing camera quality of both the phones is almost the same, but as I told you in my previous video also, that the front facing camera of the Moto G lags in low lighting, which I also gave you a sample in my review video of this phone, and I will put a link of that video in the description below, which you can see. Okay, moving on, let's talk about the battery. Asus ZenFone 5 has 2110 mAh battery, while Moto G has 2070 mAh battery. But if we talk about the backup, then Moto G has better backup than Asus ZenFone 5. In Asus ZenFone 5, you barely get around 10 to 12 hours with normal usage, while in Moto G second generation, you get around 14 to 15 hours with normal usage. And if you use less, then you can also get around 20 to 24 hours. While in Asus you barely get around 13-14 hours with less usage. So in that case, Moto G is the winner in the battery. The next thing is the Android version. Asus ZenFone 5 comes with the Android Jelly Bean 4.3, as you can see. Though the company has promised that the phone will be updated to Android KitKat 4.4, but we are still waiting for the update and it's still not out yet. While Moto G second generation comes with the Android KitKat out of the box, and that to the latest version of Android KitKat, which is 4.4.4, and the company has promised us that this phone will receive the latest Android, which is being called Android L, the newer version of Android. So this phone will be updated to Android L. So again, Moto G is the winner in Android version. Now if we talk about the call quality, both the phones have really good call quality, but I think Moto G second generation has better call quality than Asus ZenFone 5. While talking on the phone, you can hear the other person better and louder in Moto G than Asus ZenFone 5. So again, Moto G is the winner in call quality. Now let's talk about some general things now. Both the phones support USB on the go, means you can plug in your pen drive and access the data in it. In both the phones you can move the apps to the SD card as well. However, there are few apps which you can't move, like WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger and widget apps, and the apps which needs to give notifications. So you can't move that. But if you talk about other apps like games and stuff, then obviously you can move that apps to SD card in both of the phones. Lastly, there are two more extra things in Moto G second generation which are not there in Asus ZenFone 5, which is, one is active noise cancellations, means in the call all the background noises get reduced so that the other person can hear you better. And the second thing is that this phone, Moto G second generation, is water splash proof, means it can take everyday water splashes and you can use it in rain as well. But let me warn you here, don't submerge this phone fully in the water as I did in the water test video, because after 3-4 hours the screen started to jitter a bit, like screen brightness was going up and down. Though it's fine now, it's working absolutely fine. So obviously this phone is splash proof, waterproof, but please don't submerge this phone fully in the water. It surely can take the rain and everyday water splashes, but don't submerge this phone fully in the water. But again, that's a plus point in Moto G, which doesn't have in Asus ZenFone 5. So let's come to the conclusion now, that which phone you should buy. Well, I'm confused myself, so it totally depends on you, that what kind of person you are and what are your priorities. For me, I would suggest you to go for the Moto G second generation. Surely it has slower processor, less RAM, and even GPU is a bit slower. But I want to tell you one thing, that it can run any game that this phone can run. I tried Modern Combat 5 and both the phones can run the game very smoothly. So if we talk about the normal everyday uses, this phone has better speakers than this, has same size of display but is smaller, has better battery backup also. Now you can also expand your memory through micro SD card slot, plus both the phones have 8 megapixel camera. Surely the quality of photos are better in Asus ZenFone 5, but this is nonetheless, if this is 20 then this is 19, and I think that's acceptable. Plus this is running the latest version of Android and is also water splash proof in everyday life. So I would suggest you to go with the Moto G if you are looking for an overall device. But if you are specifically a gamer or you like to take a lot of pics and you are a photography freak, then I would suggest to go for the Asus ZenFone 5. because it's faster and has better camera, lots of effects, lots of settings you can do in the camera. So now it's totally up to you that what do you want, a phone with a great camera if you are a photography freak, or a phone which is all-rounder in every position, camera, splash proof, latest Android, good stereo loudspeaker. So it's totally up to you guys, but I would suggest to go with the Moto G second generation. So that's it for now guys. This was a comparison video of Asus ZenFone 5 and Moto G second generation. If you guys have any questions, any suggestions, then put them in the comments down below. Plus if you like my videos, then give them a thumbs up because that really encourages me. So that's it for now guys. Thank you for watching and subscribe for more upcoming videos.